All right, good morning once again, everybody. Wednesday, October 15th. Welcome to another Watercooler Wednesday. I do appreciate you tuning in, passing the word, and enjoying the content. I'm joined as always by Dwayne. Dwayne, how you doing?
Hey Kev, how's it going?
Good, 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 good. Got another good case study for us. And couple of lessons within it. I mentioned I put out an October 1st report and some of the changes that's happening in the banking world on October 1st. And in brief, essentially the days of being able just to raise your hand and say, I need a loan modification and them expediting that, all that COVID stuff, that's all going to end. They're going to let people kind of drag it out a little bit, but 2 years, that's it. We're selling your note and moving on. And it's about time. I mean, COVID was what, 2019 or something? It's like, good Lord. So people have been, of course, abusing that system and just getting loan mod after loan mod after loan mod. And of course, they're not making any payments in the meantime. And a lot of student debt, I think, out of simple hopefulness or possibly ignorance. They just felt, well, their debt was forgiven, my debt's going to be forgiven, and of course that's not happening for a lot of people either. So there's some trouble brewing in that. If you combine that with what's going on with credit card debt and delinquencies and automobile debt and delinquencies, again, it's setting that whole late mortgage payment up once again. And so that's one of the things going on. The second thing is in the lending world, if you will, which we're a part of, even though we don't do direct loans, we buy loans that somebody else has created. We are in that realm, and we are the good guys, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. And so I'm just now starting to see some more what I would call subperforming notes coming around. And I think people are waking up to the fact that the gravy train of non-payments is ending. So I'm buying a deal here that will illustrate that for you. And I think what may have happened, at least a part of this, is just my impression, is that this borrower probably had some other people that weren't making their payments and saying, hey, all you have to do is ask for a modification and they have to automatically give it to you. And this guy thought he could do that. You can't. This is a private loan. Banks have to do that because they're under the guidance of the federal government, Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, and Freddie Mac, that are forcing banks to do that. But private loans is a whole different scenario. Private lender does not have to do a loan modification for you at all. And I think that was a part of it. Plus, the state of Pennsylvania can drag their feet a little bit on these issues. So this note goes back a long time. You'll see in just a minute. Goes through the turmoil, which Dwayne and we've seen that before. Now it's coming out on the other side, and you're buying it under that condition. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about here. Let's close that out, minimize that. Okay, so it's this note here that I'm looking at. And I'll just read the comments in case you're just listening to this and not watching the video, which we replay the video, by the way, on my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, kevinshortell.com, and you'll or look for Kevin Shortell. You'll find me there if you want to see a replay of this. So the comments from the seller are this: the borrower has signed a mod and made $20,000 in payments in 2 months. The borrower completed a trial payment plan through August. The loan is performing with equity and a motivated borrower. $100,000 principal, 8%, 360 months, 733. They got taxes in there. Principal and interest is just under $1,000 a month, and they're selling it at an 11.2% yield and 60% of the value, all of which are good triggers for a solid note investor, right? So we're looking at a good ITV, we're looking at a good yield and a good discount. So they're asking 75,000 on this. Now, one of the arrows I've got, well, the arrow I have on there right now is loan origination June 6, 2006. So this
Hmm.
is one of those old loans That's
Yeah.
been around a little while, and a lot of those loans were uh, high interest rate, or they were at least adjustable interest rate loans, that sort of thing. The real estate market hadn't quite crashed yet; it was still on the incline, but then everything came crashing down around it. And so a lot of those notes in that legacy time frame, if you will, went bad. There's no question there. And then it's a matter of, well, what have they done since then to get out of that situation, and how is the loan modification taken care of? So one of the things that they said is that the borrower came up after this latest loan modification, the borrower came up with 20 grand. So one of the things that you have to do, of course, is trust but verify, right? I mean, we talk about that all the time, Dwayne, where it's like they tell us that, but show me. I just have to see it. So I went through the payment history and I've got them highlighted there. They came up with that money in 2023. So when I first read it, I was thinking it was more recent. They just came up with 20 grand and that sort of thing. But it's really in 2023. They paid $20,000. They did it over two installments of $10,000 each. And there's a lot of comments on there, so I better not put that up too long. So um, the person came up with some money, and that's a net positive, right? That's a good thing. Um, it's showing that they want to stay. That's a lot of money for somebody to walk away from later on. So even though it wasn't done 2025, 2024, but 2023, it was significant enough where it's hard for somebody to walk away from. Skin in the game, as we call it, right,
Yes, absolutely.
Dwayne? So why would they come up with that money? Well, they were coming up with that money to avoid the foreclosure. So this property was going through the foreclosure process, no question about it, leading up to the sale of the property. And like a lot of borrowers, they have a tendency to let the foreclosure drag out and have their attorneys, do delay after delay after delay until it finally gets to the inevitable. And then they go, okay, wait a minute. We don't want to lose our house. We don't want to lose all of this equity. Um, Push comes to shove, their payments were below $1,000 a month, which, if they get removed from their house, where are they going to move, for less than that? So they finally woke up and said, well, we're going to foreclose. Now, if you're a note investor, and I'll propose this to Dwayne. So if you're a note investor and you bought this thing, let's say back in 2000 and 2020, something like that, and you bought this thing and it went bad, and you tried to communicate, you tried to reach out to them to do some kind of workout, and you got nothing back in return. And then you're putting all this money out, not only for the foreclosure cost, paying attorney, but servicing fees from professional servicing companies get more expensive when it's not performing. Why? Because they're putting more effort into it. They're sending letters, demands, all these sorts of things. They're working with attorneys. It's a much more active process than somebody who's just making payments. So if you've been doing that for 2 years, trying to foreclose with somebody, and they say, hey, we'll stop and we'll start making our payments again, your response, Dwayne, is going to be what?
Well, that's
You got
not
to come
gonna
up, you
happen.
got to come up with some
Yeah,
money,
that's
man.
like you need something to come up with for sure.
Yeah. You got to show me some good faith money, as we call it, right?
That's right.
And a lot of it, because you want to recoup some of your costs. You want to show them, you've built up this huge arrearage account over this period of time. And now you think I'm just going to say, okay, that's fine. We'll just drop everything and do a loan modification so you can simply stop making payments once again. That's not going to work. So when you go through that process, you tighten it up. And a lot of times we ask them, hey, you got to come up with some good faith money. And in this case, it was 20 grand. And I think that was out of the sheer fact that it took so long and cost them so much money. There was like, there's no way we're stopping this because we can make a lot of money potentially on this deal if we foreclose. The guy would have to come up with 20 grand. And guess what? Somehow he comes up with the 20 grand. Okay, so we're back on track. The second part of that is you're going to start out with a permanent loan modification or you're going to do some kind of a trial mod. I was prompting you, Dwayne.
Oh,
That was part two of my question there. So you
I,
want some
I,
good
I
faith,
got you.
you want some good faith money, and then
Yeah. I thought you caught my hand in the cookie jar. Yeah, they need to do a loan modification.
yeah, but it's got to be on a trial basis to start. You're not
Sure.
going to do, we'll go right to a permanent mod because it's still going to be, and the difference there is in a trial loan modification, you're saying if this, then that, right? So you're saying if you continue to pay your monthly payments on time, then we can graduate this to a permanent modification. But what we're going to do is we're going to temporarily put the foreclosure on hold. We're going to take the good faith money. We're going to see if you can make the monthly payments for 12 months, for 6 months. In this case, it was 12 months. If you can do that successfully for 12 months, then we'll move to a permanent modification. In fact, let's run the numbers here, see where the math is, and see what you've built up this arrearage account to. And we might even forgive all of that or part of that if you make your payments on time. So it's the old carrot and stick sort of thing here, but none of it's permanent because it'll say in there, if you default, if you breach this temporary mod, we have every right to bring it right back to where it was, continue on with the foreclosure and move on. And that's a much smarter way to do these things. Otherwise, the risk you take is you make a permanent mod and they go, they make their payments for a few months and they stop again. And
Yeah.
then you got to start that foreclosure process all over. So you can't put yourself in positions like that. As much as we want to be the good guy, we're not the good dumb guy. We have to do it the right way. Hey, you want to stay in your house? We'll set a path that you can do that, but we're not going to set ourselves up for failure either here. And that's really the smart way to do this. So here's the modification on what they agreed to here. They ran through all the numbers. They said, okay, look, your balance was 64, but you've got all of this accrued interest, 41, almost $42,000. You've got a $15,000 escrow shortage. We had to pay attorney fees of 3 grand, corporate advances, servicing fees, foreclosure expenses, all these things. That means your total payback's $127,000 from a $64,000 balance.
Mm,
But that's what it is. So what we'll do is
mm.
we will take this 127,000, we're going to split it into two parts. We're going to take the 100,000 of it, and that's what you're going to start making payments on again. Okay, so that'll be your new loan balance moving forward. Start making payments on that $100,000 balance. And that's where in the listing, the 100,000 came from, right? That $100,000 principal there. We're going to stretch it back out to 360 months. We're going to write it up at 8% interest, and that's what you'll make your payments on. Now, there's still this account of $27,000 here. That is going to be your deferred balance. And on that one, you're not going to make or pay any interest. You're not going to make monthly payments on that amount. We're going to simply move that balance to the back. Okay. Now, if you pay the loan off, you still owe that amount. It's just not accruing any kind of interest or anything like that. You're not making payments on it. So here's the adjustments. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to make this for 30 years, 8%. There's your monthly principal and interest, plus you've got to pay escrow. There's your approximate payments, just under $1,000. But you do have this balloon holding out here when you pay this loan off at the end of the term in 2053, or if you pay it off early. Okay, so pretty good arrangement on that. And the person's been pretty good on making payments. Now, you'll still see some late charges in there, but we always like to see ACH payments, right? Coming in, automatic debit, that sort of thing. So they've been pretty good. They haven't been 100% great. They're still a little bit behind. They're still paying late on some things, but they're trying. But one of my concerns, of course, is what about this money here? Now, you'll see that in here, let's see, the deferred balance, it will say, under, where is it? Oh, I know I copied it in here. It says in here somewhere that this $27,200 of that, oh, there we go, is forbearance principal, is eligible for forgiveness. So the amount
Yeah.
that they're not paying interest on or everything, we're putting to the back of the loan. You're not, you still have to pay that off, but it's eligible for forgiveness. Well, how is it eligible for forgiveness? Upon 12 consecutive timely payments made each month or within 30 days. So they can be up to 30 days late, but as long as that payment comes in, then the $27,200 will be waived. In the event of default, the original balance is still forborne, meaning if they are later than 30 days late on any one of those payments, then it's like deals off, you still owe the 27.2.
I, I wanted to make a point about that. So obviously, being a note owner, you can do whatever you want. If you have a rearage down at Bank of America, they're not going to do that. It's very unlikely they're going to take the arrearages away that you owe. You
Correct.
being a personal note owner, you have the ability to, instead of saying 12 months, you could have said 16 months or 6 months, whatever you want to write out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. We're the good guy in this scenario because these people would have lost their house, that they've been in since 2006. Um, but they came up with the money. We came up with a plan. We didn't come up with a plan. The person selling this note came up with the plan, and now the people are sticking by it. So I have to go back and evaluate this note that we're looking to purchase and come up with, they have a price. Is that price good? Do I need to counter offer that? And a lot of these things start to come into question. So obviously, this would be one of the questions because $27,200 is pretty significant. And I could go by the monthly payment and look at that payment history and see, I know they're late, but are they more than 30 days late? And I might find a couple where they're more than 30 days late. And then I could make the assumption that, well, the $27,200 is still there. So I'm going to eventually collect that when I buy the note. But the reality is, even though it says in black and white there, 12 consecutive timely payments or within 30 days, it will be waived. In the event of default, the original balance is still forborne. Even if they were late several times past the 30 days, the lender could still just say, you know what, just forgive it. They've been good enough. Okay. I don't know that. That's a pretty significant amount of money,
Yeah.
especially when you're looking at buying a note like this. So that's where you look at and you go, okay, so that balance is included in here in this total payoff, but is it really there or not? And I've got to figure that out because you can see a big upside. If I'm paying 75,000 for this, I'm getting a discount off of the unpaid principal balance after the modification, which is now $98,000 down from 100. But there's also this big payoff hanging out there with that forbearance amount.
I would suspect that's substantial, in your overall numbers.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
they
mean,
have
unless you're receiving such a deep discount, what rate are you at right now?
11.2.
Mm.
But so that's what's strange about this one also is so it's 11.2 as they pay. But what will happen to our yield when they pay this off, it'll go up. If they pay it off early, it'll go up significantly. In other words, we pay 75,000, 1 year goes by, we've made 11.22%. And then right after that, they sell the property. They still are going to owe about $125,000, and our balance is going to be down. We're going to be in this thing for 74. So there's a huge upside on this because of that deferred amount. But if that deferred amount is argued that that's been forgiven, that's a significant thing. So how do we figure that out? Well, I can't take anybody's word for it, the seller's word for it. They do have a spreadsheet that I've looked at that says this is the unofficial payoff, and that deferred balance is clearly there, but the key word being unofficial. So who has the official word on that? And it's going to come down to the servicing company. You know, did did that amount get forgiven or not? Is it in writing anywhere? Did they breach the 30 days? If they've breached the 30 days during that 12-month, and there's nothing that says in writing that the lender has forgiven it anyway, then it still exists. If there's anything, of course, where the lender said, we'll forgive that debt, then it's gone. Or if the servicing company goes through the numbers and says they really weren't 30 days late, it has to be forgiven. So I've got to ultimately have that determined. So I've reached out to them today saying, hey, I really need to see a loan payoff on this from the servicing company to see if that arrearage account is still there.
So if I was somebody watching this, I would ask the question, okay, you're doing that because servicing company is going to be honest with you and they're going to show you the pay history and give you that information. If the guy was self-serving, then you really couldn't. He could say that it was coming on time and everything was good, but likelihood you really don't know.
Yeah, so the professional servicing companies are licensed and bonded, right?
Right.
So they've got to make sure that the numbers are there, and they do all the accounting and everything else.
But it was self-served, you really wouldn't know.
Self-serviced, you would have the only thing you could do is,
Bank records, right?
well, not even that, because that could be tough to do also. You'd probably be better just to get a almost like an affidavit or a reaffirmation of the loan balance that the borrower also
Mm.
signs off at.
So wouldn't the bank records also show that, showing that they made consistent payment or they were 2 days late or whatever? I
Right.
mean,
But do you
wouldn't that,
want to go through all the bank records and do that, or do you want to have the note seller get together with the borrower, have all that, and say, here's what the balance is, here's what you owe, you sign it and acknowledge it? You
yeah.
know what I mean? That's so let them go through the bank records and all that stuff on that. I just want them to sign off saying, yes, we agree, we acknowledge, we reaffirm that that's what the balance is and that's what I owe, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
That'd be really the only way to do that if it was self-service. Here with the licensed servicing company, they should be able to show us, and yes, this is what the payoff is. And if that determines later on that
Trust but verify.
if this property sold later on and that's fought in court, that servicing company is probably
On the hook.
going to be on the hook for that if it turns out that balance was not due.
Yeah.
So and they know that. That's why the servicing companies. A lot of times people go, well, I'll just call the borrower and do this work out. That servicing companies hate that because they're like, whoa, 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 our license is on the line here. We're the ones who have to, determine. You can't just tell them that debt's forgiven and we don't have the proper paperwork on that. That could potentially hold us liable down the road, that sort of stuff. So it's an interesting one. And obviously that's a pretty significant factor. If that 27,000 is not there, I got to come back in at a lower offer. I'm already at lower than 75, but I'd have to come in at a lower offer than that because that's just money that's gone. That potentially was there. And you think about, well, how much longer are they going to be in the house? They're coming up on 20 years or so. That's a little longer than most people. Property values are up. Who knows? Maybe they're going to sell, or maybe they go, we can't afford to sell. we're going to stick it out. They just got a pretty much a whole new loan, on this thing. They basically got refinanced. We call it a workout modification, but it's essentially they got a new $100,000 loan going on this thing. Property value seems to be there, but they look like they're on a better course, and they look like they're paying. And I've read in the notes and stuff where the son is helping out, doesn't want them to lose the house, sort of thing. So that's all good stuff, and so the payments haven't been coming in on a pretty good basis here. And it shows the person wants to stay and pay, coming out of pocket again, the 20 grand, starting to make the payments. So it's one of these loans that it's not perfect, but there is no perfect note. So you have to think in terms of what's least likely, what's most likely. I think with all the money, the 2 years really worth of payments plus the $20,000 is a pretty good indicator that they made a decision. Hey, we don't want to lose our house. It was foolish to go through the foreclosure. Maybe they had to for whatever financial reasons. Maybe that's turned around. But now we want to keep the house. We've got equity in it, and we'll turn around and if we need to, we'll sell it down the road. I don't have a property value there on the listing, do I?
Everybody has a situation, so
Yeah,
you don't know.
yeah. I thought I had a property. The property value is pretty significant, so it's
Looks like
it's
a nice
almost,
house, huh?
yeah, it's like 180 if I remember correctly, something like that. So it's a good good value there. And if they decide to sell it down the road, great. They'll have enough equity and move on. So again, that's kind of the whole thing. And we'll probably see more notes like this. I'm looking at a second one right now that's not quite the same as this, but it's another workout. It's another loan that's coming out of non-performing. Um, the other note, which I'm not ready to show you yet because I don't have it under contract yet. Um, the guy makes payments like every 2 months. He skips a month and makes payments every 2 months, and occasionally in the third month, he'll pay it. So
Hmm.
he's behind a little bit, but he's saying he wants to stay and pay. But again, it's just with that your servicing costs cost more, and you have to take that in consideration on your yield and on your offers on things. Otherwise, it cuts into too far into what you're looking at. So with these notes, discounts are a big part of what we do to measure our risk once again, and our reward, and what our discounts are. It comes down to those same three formulas on these semi-performing notes. But this should be a good one. And it's getting it under contract and making it subject to getting this other information. Need to know. I've already let them know. Need to make sure that 27's there. They were like the last time, like, I'm pretty sure it is. I'm like, okay, now we just need to go servicing company and get the documentation on that, and make sure on what it is, and we'll continue to move forward on it. But they did a good job on the mod and everything. The servicing company did a good job of seeing the notes, and what they have in there. So it's an interesting deal, but that's kind of the nature behind these. And with these deals, you typically do get larger yields. In this case, it's not really so much just a larger yield as it is a big upside on a payoff, down the road. I don't see these people who have been in there for almost 20 years now. I don't see them being in there for another 30 years, which is what the loan is written for. I suppose it's possible, but unlikely. They just did that loan to be able to make sure that the people could afford the payments.
So what do you think the inventory looks like, ones like that coming down the pike?
Starting to see them trickle in. It's not like there's a flood of them, but it's just again, it's one of these things. You start to see them pop up, and you start to think about, you go, okay, I think I know what's happening here. We're starting to see some of these items coming into play.
What you're
Some of
feeling
these,
about the non-performing
the
right
non-performing, again, I still think we're 2 years away from that, because October 1st, although it did make some changes, it still gives people 2 years in which they can play the games, including the people who haven't made a payment in 5 years.
now?
They
Five
can
years.
they can drag it out. another couple years if they play it right. But now they have to show documentation on why they need a mod, so there's a chance
Hmm.
that some of them don't have that. But I imagine what they'll start to do is either catch up on the payments or try to catch up on the payments, or uh, they'll just start have to sell the property. So
Hmm.
we might, if property values are up and what they owe is still down here, sell the property and move on. Becomes the better way to do it.
Inventory looks pretty good. I mean, from what I have seen on paper stack and all, I mean, it looks like there's some decent deals out there for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, we haven't had a problem, with it. It's one of those things. You have a slow week. Most people don't look at this on a weekly basis, but I do. And you have a slow week and you go, not a whole lot there. Then all of a sudden, boom. Um, I bid on 5 notes on a 76 note pool, and I didn't think I was going to get them, and I didn't. Um, they were asking. I knew they were going to think their notes were worth more than they were. It was a total investment to value play. Anytime you see people writing notes, newly originated notes at 13 to 15%, that's subprime.
Hmm.
Did we go through some of those, or is that a different conversation?
I think it was a different conversation. We didn't go through any on Watercooler Wednesday.
Okay, it's probably on our private mentorship program Zoom. I went
Yeah.
through that tape and just talked about, like, yeah, this is subprime. I mean, if you're doing loan originations at 13 to 15% and you're only taking $2,000 to $3,000 down, and
That's
they want to sell them on yield, it's that same thing. They go, hey, you should be paying close to what the balance is because it's already at 13%. It's like, yeah, but I'm also paying $50,000 for a property that's worth 55. I'm paying
yeah.
50 for the note. It's like, no, that's not, that is a foolish investment. And I didn't think I was going to win them because I'm not a foolish investor. And I looked at those. I said, here's my offers, and I explained why, because I know the seller and well, in this case, the broker. And I just said, look, here's why my bids are what they are. I know I probably don't have a chance, but I'm going to throw them in the ring anyway, and see what happens. It came
So
back.
you bid on 5 of the 70, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There was like 70 of them or something. There was only
Mm.
5 I liked. The rest were too rough, and it just, again, it doesn't make sense. It's one of these. I went through the whole thing on our membership only, and I just told everybody, here's exactly how I look at these and get a feel for the overall spreadsheet. And I said, I can tell what this company does. They go out, all the deals were in Texas. They go out, they buy these homes really cheap through foreclosure, through probate, through something, and tax deed sales, what have you. And then they just turn around and they brush them off. Basically, they don't fix them up. They brush them off and sell them with financing with low down payments. And they don't qualify the people. And it was pretty obvious in that tape for me, from my perspective, of that's exactly what's going on. And then they wanted, we'll create them at high interest rates because the monthly payments are still affordable, and it will just sell the paper. And that's a good plan if you have foolish investors who don't know how to buy paper the right way. They'll buy on yield only and go, I'm making
And there'll
13%.
be people that buy those.
I think so. There probably was. And it's unfortunate because what
Yeah.
inevitably happens is down the road, the people stop paying. And then you find out, well, crap, what am I going to do with it? I paid 50 grand. The house is only really worth 50 maybe now because they really didn't fix it up. So I got to fix it up, or I got to try to sell it to somebody on terms. And it's a tough cycle if you get into that, and that's why ITV is so important to us. I mean,
And I think that's why we push education, because there are people, as you know, we've talked to in the past where they've done that. They've gone, bought a bad note, paid way too much for it, have a bad taste of the note business, and don't feel like they can do it. And I just think it's a process of bad education or not getting education and buying something over your head to where you really didn't know what you were buying.
right. So they got educated not in the way they should have.
Well, they paid for it one way or another, and
Yeah.
now they're out the money and the education, you
Oh
know?
yeah. And now they're in a battle, and the
Yes.
mindset goes, Okay, how much can I afford to lose? So when you get into one of these deals and your mindset switches from how much am I going to make to how much can I afford to lose on it, you've already, you got a bad deal from the get-go. And
The likelihood of going down the road and wanting to do it again is
oh yeah, yeah,
it's pretty much nil. I mean, they're
that all fades because that's stuff like that takes
well,
over. If somebody's doing this on a part-time basis, they got their regular job and then they got to come back and go, oh, servicing company this and I got to pay that. And I got, it's just, it just wears on a person because they just got in over their head and that's not good. So yeah, I didn't win any of those bids, but not surprised, but you're right. Unfortunately, they probably will sell enough of those
mhm.
look, there's a reason why they're selling them. Some of these notes were only seasoned for 2, 3 months. Some were
It's crazy.
the ones I put bids on were seasoned for 24 to 40 months, but there was only five of them, and that's why I looked at those and said, well, I'm going to go with the most seasoned because they're all small down payment. I'm going to come in at my maximum ITV,
Was
and
all the information, all the files there that did you have all
no,
the files on that? Nothing, huh?
no, which wasn't
Yeah.
even necessary. It was a quick review and my yields would have been 17, 18% if I got them, but it's like if I get them,
Crapshoot.
but it's I don't think I will. Um, yeah, and these houses were in the better condition and that sort of thing. So
Gotcha.
that's the kind of stuff. Those are the little traps, everybody, and that's what you don't want to do. So anyway, all right. Well, that's all I got for you today, and some good lessons in there. And once again, uh, go to kevinshortell.com, SHORTLE, and go to the website. We got a free video series that will show you the right way to research these so you don't fall into those traps. And get on the phone with us. Let's talk. Let's see if this is the right thing for you. Let's see what we can do to help you out. And Dwayne's great at that. He makes a lot of phone calls outbound to people that are exploring the business, people that also want to take it up next level.
Listen, I was on a call yesterday with a client, and he and I were talking about the video series, and he said, I really didn't know what to expect. I signed up for it. I have another call today. Went in, did the questionnaire, was able to watch the videos, and it was dang good. He says, I had no idea what it was going to be. I said, it's like being in Kevin's shirt pocket. I always tell Kevin, he didn't start wearing a little shirt pocket, put people in so they can see it. I said, he's like, he said, he really peels back the deal. And it's like just being there. I said, and that's what he does on his one-on-one calls
Yeah,
with our mentoring students. Nothing different, no different,
yeah,
no nothing. Whether you're investing a little bit of money or you have a bunch of money, your training is across the board the same way. And I think that why it's so important is because no one takes the time. The person that knows it, that does it every single day, doesn't take the time and break it down like you do. And I think that is huge value. And being able to give a free video away for again free,
yeah,
great information. I think you
yeah,
did a great job on that.
yeah. You got it. All right, everybody. So again, thank you for tuning in and for sharing it. Give us a nice like and all that good stuff if you would. We do appreciate that. And until next Wednesday, signing off. And again, Dwayne, thanks for being on.
See ya.